Bill 58 advised following social committee. This meeting will be held remotely and not in person and will be filmed and recorded for live subject broadcast available through the council website. The Council has taken control and internal protection of the regulations and Data Protection Act of 2018. We broadcast and record our meetings to fulfil our public and task obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be retained in accordance with Council public policies and available through the Council website. Members of the Council are reminded that they should follow the Council established meeting protocol, including the round use of the chat facility, and the comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in this meeting, which may include members of the public who also receive invite to this meeting. Thank you. Mary, declaration of expression of interest.
Convener, we have apologies from Councillor Law and also from Councillor Armstrong to be substituted by Councillor Crowther. We'll move to a roll call. Can the following councillors please indicate if they're present at the meeting? Councillor Brooks.
In chamber.
Councillor Crowther.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Curley.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Jackson.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor McCabe.
Present in chamber.
Councillor McCormick.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Maguire.
Present.
Councillor McVeigh.
In chamber.
Councillor Moran.
In the chamber.
Councillor Robertson.
Present remotely.
Are there any declarations of interest?
Thank you. We come to agenda item number 2, which is the call to adopt the revenue budget and general fund revenue budget update and have failed. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Angela. Do I have on?
Thank you, this is the usual update report for the committee revenue position and the general fund position. In addition, the report provides an update on earmarked reserves, common good and the work streams. The work streams are found at Appendix 9, and I know in the report it might be a little bit difficult to read, so I have got margin copies around if they want to be used. From the report, the projected underspending for the year is 2.545 million against the revised budget of 25.54. This is an increase of 2.417 million since the last report, and you can find more detail on those underspendings in section 3.3 of the report. As noted at the council budget setting meeting, the movement was mainly due to additional Scottish Government funding and centrally held contingencies, which are not expected to be drawn down in the year. It should be noted that the council approved 2.08 million use of reserves to support the loans charges fund pressure and a further 240,000 to support the finance strategy decisions at the same meeting. The general fund position that you can find in Appendix 6 and Appendix 8, the report reflects all the decisions that were taken at the committee meeting on the 6th of March. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Angela. Where's my phone? Legacy. Where's my bed?
Thanks, Convener. Question for Jefferson, please, Convener. I know some underspent £175,000 senior officer capacity. And currently have 2 other exits are vacant. I'm just wondering when these positions will be filled, where the proposal will come forward. Thank you, Convener.
The Convener, members of the public management team have met to discuss these council today. We're looking at a number of different options, and I hope to be able to include all of the chief officer cohort, because you recognise that this is the council chief officers versus the health and social care chief officers. So I'm hoping to bring a meeting of all of the group together towards the end of April, and that's just been rotated by holidays, and I report will be to committee thereafter.
Thanks, Convener.
Thank you. Councillor Crowther.
Thank you, Convener. If you look at Appendix 4, that's on page 10 and furthermore on page 11, we have the equal pay, and I see that there is money has been put aside for ongoing reserve. Is there any reason why that is? Because I would have assumed that all the equal pay costs would have been resolved by now. And also the transformation, It mentions there that it was approved in 2025 and that the plans are to be drafted. Is there any information as to when they will be ready for elected members?
Thank you,
Madam?
Convener. If I can pass the equal pay question over to Morna, she'll be able to explain that one, and hopefully David will be able to pick up and transfer it. Thank you.
Okay,
Oh,
Thank you, convener. On the equal pay, so that is contingency money to support with legal fees in case we have any equal pay cases arising.
okay, just in the off chance. Okay, that's very nice, lovely, thank you.
And through the convener, so in terms of the transformation fund, yeah, we are looking at the transformation activities required to bridge the longer term budget gap across the council. And these activities cover ground that's already been presented to members in terms of delivering differently and the additional modernisation programme. We'll be bringing that together into a transformation programme as part of the forthcoming finance strategies.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
thank you. Any other questions on that report? No, agree recommendations? Thank you. Agenda number 3 is the following posted capital budget and council capital programme, and it's Mr. Toffel Mark.
Thank you, Convener. Yep, again, this is the usual capital report on both the committee's capital programme and the overall programme. You see 1.3 that the committee is showing a 6.78 million spend over 3 years, so it's on target. Within the year, we are showing some slippage now of 1.011 million. We flagged most of that before, and just to confirm that most of that is within the contingencies, not within the actual capital programme in here. But last that's a small slippage in the IT capital programme, about £1,000. That's just timing of here, and we're getting towards the end of that, there's a bit of slippage in there. 1.4 you get the overall programme. Again, we're showing that 2.86 million over allocation, that's within the 5% we allow. And within the overall programme, we're also seeing in the 1.441 million of slippage, the bulk of that obviously in PNR, the contingency, the small slippage mainly in PNR. And again, we're getting towards the end of the year, there will be some movement in this, but we're getting towards that, should be starting from a wee bit. Just to confirm though that this report does not reflect the council decision made the 5th of March. Just because of the timing right with the report, when we come back to you in May, we will have those decisions in, so we'll temporarily with a 4-year programme. And after some of these decisions, we'll go back into the I'll include all the decisions made in March in there. There's detail obviously in the appendices. I won't go through all of them, again, questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Councillor McLean.
Thanks, Convener. Question for Mr. Forbes. At 3.9, the report states an over-provision of projects against estimated resources of 5% is considered acceptable to allow for increased resources and or cost reduction. Is that still relevant in the current and future financial climate, Mr. Forbes? And if not, what would be your advice going forward? Thanks.
Thanks, Drew. Convener. Yeah, that's basically an attempt to capture the various fluctuations that we have in the delivery of the capital programme. There's always timing delays causing slippage and cost movements as we move towards tender. So our 5% allowance has been built into the programme. There's different ways of addressing this, and as we move into more financially constrained times, we may adopt a different approach, which is about trying to limit the expenditure and therefore manage that 5%. But it is about just the movement required between financial years and delivering such a complex programme.
Right, thanks.
Okay. Don't see anybody online. Anyone else? No. Great. Thanks very much. Then report is the corporate policy performance update and the health knowledge.
Thank you, Convener. This report provides the committee with an update on various corporate policy and performance matters. Firstly, the Cooperative Council of Innovation Network. As members will recall, at the September 25 meeting, it was agreed that our membership of this network will continue to 2027 and 6 monthly updates which we brought back to committee, and paragraph 3.4 provides that update. Secondly, the Data Analyst Network has reconvened and officers have met with Improvement Services, Digital Public Services to learn more about data services work streams being delivered with a view to learning from that. And thirdly, in relation to best value, since the last update on national best value developments was provided to committee, Fourth, further reports have been published and overview is provided for the committee's information. And as mentioned in previous reports to this committee, a controller of audit best value report on Inverclyde Council, which will draw from the findings presented in our annual audit and thematic inspection reports, is expected to be considered by the Accounts Commission before August 26. I will keep committee updated in relation to progress against that. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Norman. Councillor Cullen?
Thank you, Robert. Just on the Cooperative Councils Network, I'm pleased to see that the report includes an update on that. With respect to the items I've identified here, a lot of it's ongoing, and so hopefully in the next 6 months we can see a little bit more of meat on the bones with respect to this. But I welcome the report as provided.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy?
Yeah, it's just to ask in terms of the best value reports here, is there anything in there that would need to draw on in terms of how we maybe deliver service prepare?
Thank you to you, Convener. Certainly the report represents our approach to transformation and our development approach to transformation, strengthen that as a council. So certainly there's learning that we'll take from other councils in relation to that. Officers already link in with all councils in Scotland, including those in the report in terms of thematic networks. And so we do take learning into account that way as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Item number 5 is a council report to building improvement plan for 2023 to 2026. Order.
Thank you, Convener. The purpose of this report is to provide committee with an update of the progress made in delivery of policy resources, committee delivery and improvement plan, and it covers the period September 25 to February 26. It includes an update on the status of the action plan and quarterly KPI performance. The body of the report provides a summary of performance and the full detail provided in the appendix. I can take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Norman. This is any questions on this report? Councillor Cullen?
Thank you. I don't know if it's probably Norman or maybe David or Angela might be able to answer this question. It's about it's on back page 44, the relevant benchmarking framework, and that with the general fund balance. Obviously, I'm maybe tying it into the document later on in the agenda. It also talks about the percentage that is uncommitted. But it's a variation, but obviously we seem to be quite within the Scotland and family group. But I'm just wondering, is that 2%? Is that the 2% still that's mentioned later on in the paper when it comes to the general fund balance? And as a general rule, we sort of like as the budget every year we've developed, we leave the general fund balance at the 2% and we utilise other as for other reserves. So I'm just wondering when this is actually snapshot is actually taken at the budget time, or is it actually taken at another time in the year? Because also there's quite a variation within it.
David?
Thank you, Convener. And I'll take the last part first. The snapshot's taken at outturn, so this is where we actually end the year at and what we have in our reserve. Unprinted balances, sorry, at the annual accounts. So that's why you get a significant variation from the target. As you'll see later on in the agenda, the reserve strategy is agreed by members on a regular basis, and the target has historically been between 2 and 4% of our revenue budget, aiming towards the 2%. This strategy this time is actually breaking that percentage because obviously fluctuations in the revenue budget, and we're pegging that more at £4 million. Which is taken as being the equivalent of 2%, give or take the annual variations in the budget.
Okay, so it's before any decisions we make at the budget, so that's why there's a bit more of a variation to it. Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any recognition to talk to the report? Item 6 is a local government benchmarking.
Thank you, Convener. The purpose of this report is to provide committee with details of Inverclyde Council's local government benchmarking framework, or LGBF, performance for 24-25. consolidate and refresh in February 26. And it also provides the key measures contained within the National Benchmarking Overview Report, which was published by Solace and COSLA. You'll see in terms of the National Overview Report from paragraph 3.6 onwards, the key themes in terms of national pressures include funding pressure, structural strain, workforce challenges, tied to capacity, recruitment demographics. In relation to health and social care, rising demand and limited capacity. For education, recovery with rising complexity, tackling poverty, persistent structural issues. And then the report moves on to our own LGDF performance, with Appendix 1 providing full detail, including benchmarking data for the family group and Scotland, along with our national ranking relative to all local authorities over the previous 3 years. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you. Steve, Councillor Cave.
Just bring up in terms of 3.6, just to read the bottom, it says the Council Commission warned that without the fundamental change, councils could become financially unsustainable within 3 to 5 years. Mr. Fox wants to comment on that, what that actually potentially would mean in practice.
Thank you through you, Convener. I mean, it's a pretty broad statement, but all local authorities are facing the same challenges. We have either static or reducing funding coming from central government, which as members are aware makes up more than 80% of the funding available to local authorities to deliver services. At the same time, we are experiencing significant cost increases and demand pressures, so that there is a point where elected members may feel that they can no longer make the difficult decisions in terms of reducing or streamlining services to operate within that financial envelope, at which point conversation will need to be had more nationally about the sustainability of the local government services we're coming from.
Just to pursue that wee bit further, what in a sense would be the nature of those conversations? Because we've obviously seen situations in England where councils have been effectively declared bankrupt, declared themselves bankrupt and went to the government. There's been administrators brought in, etc. What would it look like in a Scottish context?
Again, through looking there, that's been subject of some debate. The mechanism in England is called a Section 114 notice. There is no such legal mechanism within the Scottish framework. A local authority cannot declare itself insolvent in that way. So there has been some debate in Scotland to take exactly what form that would take. And I'm not aware of the latest thinking on that, other than because no local authority has yet got to that point, although obviously it's been highlighted by some of our neighbours that they are approaching it rapidly.
So again, just to pursue a wee bit further, if you don't mind. If we get to the point you alluded to earlier, where could be sitting around here or around another council where elected members say, to balance the budget, we need to make £5 million worth of recurring savings. We've looked at the list of savings. We're not prepared to make savings. But legally, the council has to set a balanced budget. So what's your role in a situation like that?
Again, through you, Convener, it's a difficult one because obviously my role is to advise council on the financial realities and requirements of setting the budget, including the legal requirement to set a balanced budget by the first week of March each year. Where council failed to set a balanced budget is untested territory and would obviously then refer back through. I have to consult with colleagues in legal services and the chief executive, but that would have to be referred up to Scottish ministers as to how the council can then operate without a legally set budget.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Paul.
Thanks, Robert. I suppose following on what Councillor McCabe says here, for Inverclyde, you know, we are performing well, but overall, financial reality is it's quite bleak. Things are only going to get much better, which kind of takes me to 3.6, and it's on shared workforce solutions. Just to ask Stuart, do we have any initiatives in place, promote shared services, or is that been tried and tested?
You can do that those. Councillor Jackson, we're aware that over the years, we've done a number of things with shared services. Specifically, we looked at roads, we looked at waste, we looked at fleet, as well as grounds. And whilst there were some successes in those shared services, we've chosen to step back from them. We are constantly looking at opportunities for shared services, and indeed there's a paper later on the agenda, item number 10, looking at how we share the internal audit or the chief internal auditor function. So we can give members absolute comfort that we are always looking at opportunities. But what I would say is that in order for us to enter into shared services, both partners or all of the partners need to be on a level playing field. And I would reflect on some of the experiences that we've had previously where that wasn't the case, and we have learned from that experience.
Okay, thanks, Stuart.
Thank you.
Can I maybe ask something, Lawrence? It's on page 50 and it's up at the top, local work performance. And the thing that seems to be gives it all the public services model is the persistent challenge of high absence levels. And I know going very up your probably very about the same as everybody else, but is there really anything we could be doing to try and improve this situation? Because it seems to be sort of theme for it from the beginning of it.
Absolutely, the absenteeism levels are regularly reported to the corporate management team. And the challenge that the corporate management team have is how we can reduce absenteeism levels. There have been a number of initiatives which have been carried out by Mona's team in respect of looking at hotspots, and we'll continue to do that. Michael's on the call and recognising that within the figures, teacher numbers are a problem.
Yeah.
But that's something that we're attempting to deal with, because ultimately we want to bring an absenteeism to good thing.
Thank you. Councillor Powell.
Well, thank you, Robert. I think yes, I think absenteeism is obviously a metric of how we are performing within an organisation. Because obviously a metric of the pressures that are expected are appreciated by our workforce. So obviously there's be a holistic approach to try and address that. It's not just a one size fits all. So it is important to look at it from a holistic point of view. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Looking at a couple of questions. First of all, on page 54, the LGBF data with respect to immediately available employment land. I'm just wondering when we'd be able to have, and which I'm sure it'd be an Environment Regeneration Committee that might see that sort of come through. But what I was wondering was how is that tie in with respect to the developing local development plan? That's what I could put it that way. Because obviously that will be part of the discussion there, what is available for development in the local development plan. So I'm just interested to see when do you think you'll be able to have an idea of the quantum of that within the local authority.
Okay. Mr. Dennison.
The amount of available land is measured on an annual basis, Councillor Powell. We're relying on colleagues within the Metropolitan City region for that function because of them having the regional spatial strategy element. So it's not contingent on the LDD, it's something that we can report to the Environment Regeneration Committee and we do so accordingly.
Okay, thank you. Second question, jumping ahead, was at page 51. I just want to clarify my understanding of the particular graph for page 51. So my understanding is it's a chart of percentage of measures ranking in 42 quartiles for Employed Council and showing you're going from 64% down to 56%. But my understanding from the commentary around that is that we think that's a decline due to a combination of challenges they face. But I'm going to use the analogy of a rising tide and a sinking tide. A lot of this will be affecting a number of authorities at the same point similarly. So I'm just wondering whether or not is there anything specific in Inverclyde's scenario that is impacting the 64% to 56%, accepting the fact is that a lot of the local authorities will be under the same fiscal climate, fiscal challenges. So in reality, we might all expect us to all to go up and down at the same level. If we did that, we wouldn't necessarily see a change in the rankings. So just wonder if you could get some clarity about that.
Thank you, convener. Yep, certainly take your point in terms of it's a comparative measure, and many local authorities are facing similar challenges, which in turn will impact on services. And Inverclyde will obviously particular demographic pressures, the legacy demographic pressures that we continue to deal with. We have above average levels of older people, above average concentrations of older people, and obviously lower and therefore lower levels of younger working age people. Also, recent issues in terms of big employers withdrawing from the area and loss of jobs. So it's a combination of factors obviously influence our local pressures.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair point that's made there, but I suppose, and I'm a bit sceptical at things about performance indicators and whether being in a particular quartile is actually good or bad, because I think there's subjectivity involved in some of that. But actually, although there has been a decline from 64 to 56, 56 still means that the majority of our indicators are in quartile 1 and 2, which I would suggest means that, again, comparatively, we're doing pretty well. I mean, previously when we were at 64, we were saying we were one of the best performing councils in Scotland. Although it's 56, we're probably still one of the best performing councils in Scotland overall, despite that there are clearly some measures where we're not, and there's some where there's been decline. And I think some of that is absolutely attributable to us prioritising through the budget process where we spend the money. And if we're spending less money, for example, in economic development and supporting jobs, etc., then it's no surprise if indicators decline. If we are protecting education, we're protecting social care, then it shouldn't be any surprise that we're either holding or slightly improving. So you need to look at the broader picture, and 56% is still comparatively a good performance.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, Cooper Caper went to the fire scrutiny panel, and it was Ward 2, and it went to under 100%, and I challenged the fire chief one. It went to nothing to win. That's how they put down the 100% increase. We went fire because it's not a previous year, but your reports are a lot different than that. I'll up to it, you know, when the dish spit out data, especially all that. So, well done, thank you for that. So we're going to agree with recommendations of 2.1. Okay. Item 7 is the data protection officer down report, and I think this Paul is coming on for us.
Thank you, convener. This is the annual data protection officer report for 2025 for noting. It provides an overview of data protection performance and compliance in 2025. Overall, the council is demonstrating continued commitment to data protection. However, subject access request compliance reduced in 2025. 60% were on time in 2025 compared with 78% answered on time in 2024. Council services are performing strongly, but the rising volume and complexity of requests being dealt with by the HSEP have contributed to the fall in overall compliance rates. HSEP are aware of this, and an action plan to address this is in place, and improvement has been seen in the first quarter of 2026. There has also been an increase in the number of data breaches. These are all low-risk minor breaches, primarily as a result of human error, and services should continue to remind staff of the need to take care when dealing with people's personal data. All other comments and assessments are highlighted in the report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Is there any questions?
Yeah, not so much a question, I suppose, just a comment. There clearly is a need for improvement, and that is everything that it's good that we're starting to improve it, because I think it is important that we're delivering a better performance, and hopefully we'll see that in the next annual report.
Thank you. Meeting of the report. Thank you. Agenda number 8 is the capital strategy of 2026 to 2026 and the treasury management strategy statement and annual investment strategy 2026 to 2007 to 2028 to 2029. David.
Thank you, Convener. This is the annual report which fulfills our statutory obligation to review the capital strategy of the council and agree the council strategy for the management of treasury and investment activity over the forthcoming year. In terms of the capital strategy, this reflects the investments required to support the council's asset management plans and the capital budget 2026-29 approved by the council on 5th March this year. The strategy highlights the significant financial challenges facing the council in terms of maintaining the existing asset base while meeting targets for net zero, and a full review of the capital investment programme is due to be undertaken during the coming year. The Treasury Management and Annual Investment Strategies outline the indicators and limits within which the Council's borrowing and investment activities will be managed and monitored over the coming year. The report highlights that following the application of additional earmarked funds as approved by the Council, the current capital investment plans are considered affordable within the context of the Council's available revenue flow stream. However, this assessment was based on a number of assumptions in relation to inflation and interest rates over the medium term. All external factors impacting on this will continue to be monitored by council officers and the council's external treasury advisors as we progress through the year. Committee is asked to note the strategies and remit them for approval by council and to take any questions.
Yeah, I suppose the capital strategy highlights again the difficult decisions and challenges we're going to face in terms of the sustainability of our asset base. Obviously discussed earlier the sustainability of local government finances in general, but clearly we know that we don't have the funding at this point in time to maintain the asset base we've got, and obviously it's net zero. So I suppose the question around that would be what sort of time frame are we going to be, I suppose, grappling with that particular matter. And just in terms of treasury management and investment strategy, and I know it's pretty early days, but have we seen any initial impact from the war in the Middle East on our treasury activities?
Thank you, Stuart. In terms of the capital strategy, obviously we have a detailed 3-year strategy capital programme that was approved by Council in March. As part of the review this year, we're looking to extend that out to a 5-year programme, just to give us a broader base on which to assess the opportunities, but also the challenges of the whole piece of the programme. In terms of treasury management, the only thing that we're really seeing at the moment is the increase in interest rates, or the lack of any reduction in interest rates. It was anticipated that there would be 2 drops in the Bank of England base rate this year. Those are now not expected to happen this year, or certainly not in the foreseeable future. And the availability of borrowing rates to the council through the PWLB are currently sitting in the high 5%, low 6%, which compares very unfavourably with our target within the strategy of 4.5%, which means that any borrowing to support the capital investments or to support existing borrowing requirements are going to be far more expensive than we previously anticipated. The question then remains how long that will last and how long it will take for things to return to normal once the current conflict comes hopefully to an end.
Just to follow that up, in terms of, I suppose, borrowing, are we anticipating making any significant borrowing in the next 12 months?
Thanks again, through you, Convener. So there are significant borrowings that happen every year. We have over £8 million of borrowing, which was highlighted within the capital programme, the 3-year capital programme that was approved by council. And what we will do is over the coming year, we will try to manage our exposure to these high interest rates by using as far as possible internal funds and other reserves to delay that loan until hopefully the interest rates reduced. Also due to the management of the cash flow and the historic borrowing position of the council, there are regularly older loans coming due, which then have to be renegotiated, and there's a couple of them due over the course of the next year. But again, similarly, we're using the same strategy of using as far as possible internal funds to delay those decisions until the interest rates return to a better position.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Connor.
Thank you. Just probably a slight different take, or come from a different angle from Councillor McCabe. Just with respect to the liability benchmark on page 122, obviously you, in response to Councillor McCabe, David, you advised that the intention is to use internal borrowing to enable us to offset some of the offset or we call it put back our the requirements to do formal loans to avoid to get over this little bit of a hump. But in that liability benchmark on page 122, it talks about the risk of the under borrowing. So obviously this is a bit of a balancing act. So I'm just wondering, looking at that chart, and I think I've seen a similar chart before, but it always shows that we're quite considerably under borrowed. With respect to point D on that, I'm just wondering what is the plan that we would be changing our borrowing strategy long term to match that liability, or what's the plan there?
Thanks again for you. So you're perfectly correct. We already have an underborrowed position, which is where we have historically used internal reserves to delay taking on external borrowing, and that's highlighted in the gap between the top of the bar chart and the first grey line as it is in the black and white print I've got in front of me. So the whole point is to manage that gap and to maintain it as far as possible by not taking out the borrowing that we previously have identified as required to support the capital programme. We obviously delay having to incur any costs in terms of interest payments. So it's trying to manage that gap to the maximum benefit of the council over the coming period. And that's a decision that's taken on a daily and weekly basis as we monitor the PWLB rates on a daily basis in order to try and get the best advantage for the council. And we obviously monitor the availability of internal funds based on the projected use of the earmarked reserves.
So just follow up, just from my understanding, at 2026 it shows some very much in alignment, but going forward it's showing that gap increases significantly. So I'm just wondering if that's something that's consistent with these graphs, or is it something that's identifying that we actually have to be proactive and manage our debt more so that we reduce that gap so we're less under borrowed in future years, or is it something that we really just have to work on a year by year basis? We can't do it as a multi-year strategy.
Again, through you can do it is very much a year-to-year basis in terms of treasury management, but your ideal position is to maintain a comfortable under borrowed position. Obviously, one of the things that's been highlighted around local authorities since the COVID years is that a lot of us are sitting on significant levels of available reserves, and every council is using that to forestall investment borrowing requirements. So we'd be hoping to maintain that gap in order to reduce the revenue costs to the council, because we obviously have reserves, and we will hope to continue to have reserves to address future challenges. But it's about how we then use those reserves to manage the day-to-day cash flows of the council.
Yeah. So I know so in the later years in this report we've got I know it's 2041 to 2046, but it shows we're actually going to an over borrowed state. That's something we will be able to manage as we get closer to that sort of thing.
Indeed.
Yeah. Just on the situation with respect to sorry, just about bring my place again. I was just on page 86 and talking about treasury management and investment strategy, and point H also is a point here about knowledge and skills required by office select members to be proportionate to the size and complexity of treasury management conducted by the council. I was just wondering, is there an opportunity for training or something else to be identified that would actually maybe help elected members, maybe in particular, to ensure that we have the relevant knowledge and skills to deal in and scrutinise the treasury management?
Thanks, and again, through you, Convener, absolutely, this is something that is built into our contract with the council's treasury management advisors. They are available to deliver training on either a one-to-one or a broader group basis to either officers or elected members, and certainly if there's an appetite for that across this committee, that could be organised fairly easily.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, thanks, Philip. David, it's just on the ongoing war in Iran, and you see the fall in market prices and how early pensions have been hit, especially. So, are we potentially looking at for the council's contribution, possibly to the Strathclyde Pension Fund to increase? Or what kind of indication would we have if we had to increase our contribution, given the fall?
Thanks again through you. I don't know the details of the shareholdings held by Strathclyde Pension Fund, so I couldn't comment with any great detail on the level of risk. Obviously, stock markets in non-defence related industries have shown significant movement over the last few while. What I will say is that the one thing that finance markets and stock markets generally don't like is uncertainty. They like to know what's coming in the future, and at the moment we live in very uncertain times. So the volatility within those markets is a risk to anyone holding significant shares, and that would include the Strathclyde Pension Fund. The comfort I would give is that the Strathclyde Pension Fund, as has been reported previously, is significantly overfunded at the moment, to the tune of about 180% is the last figure I have. So there is significant movement that could happen there before there's any requirement for an increase in contributions.
Okay, thanks, David.
Just a comment to make on page 122. It's just the chat there. I don't know if we could have it come up because it is really difficult and black and white and neighbour is. You know, if it's a fund or it could be included with as it comes. We look at that. Okay. Do we agree on recommendation in 2.1.2? Thank you very much, John. Item number 9 is reserve policy and triennial review. Okay.
Thanks again, Conveners. This report reflects the triennial review of the Council's reserve policy. As mentioned earlier, paragraph 4.3 of the report, and 1 of the report, highlight a number of minor amendments which are recommended to ensure that the policy reflects statutory guidance and best practice, and Committee is asked to approve the updated policy as attached to Appendix 2. I'm to take questions.
Any questions on the report? No? Okay, quite happy. We give you a recommendation. That takes on to agenda number 10. It's the future delivery of internal audit services to
Again, Convener, this report seeks agreement on the future internal audit arrangement for the Council. The report notes that the current arrangements with West Dunbartonshire Council have come to an end, and asks for authority to be delegated to myself and the Head of Legal, Democratic, Fiscal and Customer Services to develop a new agreement with West Dunbartonshire Council and East Dunbartonshire Council for a shared management service of a chief internal auditor role. In addition, the Council previously recognised that a more robust global structure was required to support staff capacity and resilience. And to support this, the report recommends the creation of a new lead internal auditor post to be funded from within existing resources. This would include a review of executive structures and support from the senior officer capacity budget. To take questions.
Any other question on the report? Okay, the recommendation 2.1.2. Yep. Item 11 is the update of the Technical Modernisation Programme delivery of income digital customer service target and service performance.
Thank you, Convener. So this report does a number of things. Firstly, it updates the committee on the digital modernisation programme. It's also providing an update on phase 1 of the interim digital and customer services strategy. Further, it provides updates on the performance of the Council's ICT and customer services teams. The report sets out the projects currently being taken forward by the digital modernisation programme and those that are currently in the pipeline. The status of various projects delivered is included and the current financial position against the funds originally allocated is documented. An update is also provided on the progress of phase 1 of the interim digital and customer services strategy and specifically against the 6 key actions that were identified. An update on the phase 2 of that strategy will be brought to a later meeting of this committee. Finally, updates on the performance of the ICT and customer services teams are included with Appendix 2 setting out the latest performance statistics on the third deployment. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Anybody any questions? Or supplements? No? Okay. Three recommendations for statement. Okay. Item number 2, Council Commission guidance on the 2023 cyber security incident affecting the Western Isles Council. Again, Lindsay.
Thank you, Convener. This report summarises the Council Commission's response to the Controller of Audit report in respect of the 2023 cyber security incident affecting Coorla and earlier this year. The report also considers and replied Council's current cyber security arrangements, including in response to Glasgow City Council's recent cyber audit. The incident experienced by Coorla was significant and wide-reaching, with impacts upon critical finance, HR and payroll systems, rendering them inaccessible. As the attack also impacted usable backups, complete reconstruction of impacted systems was required. The report of the Council Commission is set out in Appendix 1 and sets out a number of findings that the Commission has suggested may be relevant to both the Coorla and to other local authorities. These are also summarised within the report, and the information on the Council's current position is detailed within the report, with further details provided in a private report to be considered later in the agenda. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Any questions on this report? No, okay. I'm happy with the recommendation 3.1. Thank you. Agenda item 13 is the local government Scotland finance ability.
Thanks, Convener. This report presents the Council Commission's annual report on local government financial performance based on an analysis of the previous year's annual accounts. The report is attached to Appendix 2 and highlights a number of key messages and recommendations. Appendix 1 to the report provides feedback on these from an Inverclyde perspective and notes that Inverclyde is already compliant with the majority of the recommendations. Happy to take questions.
Any questions?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I suppose the question is just to ask Mr. Forbes, looking at the report, how in a sense does sort of Inverclyde benchmark against sister councils in Scotland? Where would you put us in terms of overall financial viability, sustainability?
Thank you for your Convener. That's a very subjective question on it. It can be measured in a number of different ways. In a number of different ways. One of the things highlighted within the report is the reliance of local authorities on the use of reserves to bridge the budget gap. Inverclyde has not relied heavily on the current savings or the use of reserves either last year or in the coming year in order to bridge the finances. So on that basis, we are performing better than many other authorities. One of the other areas that highlighted is the lack of ability to deliver on some of the approved savings. Some of the approved savings by other authorities have obviously proven to be less than attainable, whereas as highlighted in the appendix, for 24-25 in the year, Inverclyde achieved 98% of the financial savings set out in the budget, which is a fairly healthy return. And obviously that remaining 2% continues to be worked on and will have been delivered in the period since the end of this report. So in terms of those two metrics, which are fundamental to financial sustainability, Inverclyde is performing above the curve, as it were. But there's many other metrics that other councils could pull out where they would say similar for themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we agree with resolution 4.1. Before we get to the private segment, I'm intending this delivery to take the health 15, which is a additional annual leave weekday on Monday, 15th of June to March 12th for participation in the football World Cup final. So if you're agreeing to take that, okay.
Thank you, convener. As members are aware, the Scottish Government has announced the national bank holiday to mark Scotland's participation in the Men's Football World Cup finals on Monday, the 15th of June. Public or local holidays are determined by local councils and can differ between areas. It's for each local authority to determine which dates will be marked as public holidays. Other Scottish authorities have been considering their position in relation to additional holiday. My understanding is that 4 areas have decided to implement the holiday. These are listed at paragraph 3.3, and while the Fisher's Cabinet also agreed an additional holiday, this decision has been called in and the subject for further discussion. The report notes that 18 local authorities have formally decided not to give an additional day. A recent update to this has been sought, and my understanding is that figure is now 21. So in addition to that list there, Dumfries and Galloway, South Ayrshire and Western Berkshire have also formally decided not to implement the holiday. The remaining council areas have made no formal yes/no decision yet, therefore the current status quo of no holiday continues until that happens. Paragraph 3.4 sets out the precedent in Inverclyde for granting additional public holidays or annual leave days, and it's noted that these additional days were backed by national guidance, with the clause line encouraging all councils to observe the specific date and occasion, but no such guidance has been issued in relation to the 15th of June this year. The report also notes that education authorities are required to provide a minimum of 190 days in a school year, and permission needs to be applied for in relation to an exemption for that, but that's been reduced. And that has been agreed by the Scottish Government's provisional request, subject to this committee's decision. The report outlines 3 options. Option 1 is the status quo remains, i.e. no additional public holiday, no additional annual leave day or school closure. That would have no additional costs and there would be no direct service implications, with employees who wanted to be on leave until June using part of their existing annual leave entitlement. The second option is a public holiday is implemented, with school and early years establishments closed, and all employees, except those delivering essential services, would be on leave. This would obviously have costs and service implications, with only essential services provided. Employees who are required to work on that day would have payment double time and a compensatory day off in lieu, and the estimated costs of that are 72k. We would also provide free school meal holiday payments, and that would involve costs of 9k. And the estimated productivity losses would be 610k. The third option in the paper is there's a school and early years establishment closure, with schools and early years employees being given an additional day of annual leave which must be taken 15th of June, and all other employees get an additional leave date taken 15th of June or alternative date, subject to usual management approvals. And my understanding is this reflects a proposal by the SNP group. The costs and service delivery implications of that are at paragraph 3.9. As it will be additional annual leave days with public holiday, there will be no requirement to pay managed rates. However, managers would be required to manage annual leave requests while maintaining service delivery. In order to maximise the number of people who could possibly be on holiday, we anticipate there would be some costs of up to 38.5k. There would also be free school meal holiday payment of 9k, and productivity losses of 646p. So committee are asked to note the Scottish Government announcement of the Royal Proclamation and consider the preferred option to be implemented and applied. Thank you, Convener.
Councillor Cullen.
Thanks, Convener.
It's mine.
The next thing he said,
No, I've not been right, but I've got a couple of questions. Thank you officers for the report. I think it's important that it is a decision that is made locally, as you said, is up for councils to make these decisions. It's part of our system. Looking at it, and also we've had experience of this in the past with the 2 additional holidays as noted in the report, in 2022 for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee and in 2023 for the coronation of President King Charles. Can officers provide commentary on the productivity losses that were experienced during these two holidays? I know in the report we said that we reckon there would be £600,000 approximately depend for each of these options, but previously we weren't reported a similar number. I'm just wondering, based on the recent experience, what impact these holidays actually had on us as an organisation and providing services.
Thank you, Convener. So I'm going to answer part of that and then pass over to David to also assist in terms of productivity costs. So we did look back in terms of previous committee reports in relation to these leave days that were granted. There wasn't as much detail provided as there is in this report, and obviously it's a number of years since those reports, those additional leave days were given, so obviously costs have increased and services have changed somewhat, but I'll pass over to David to talk about productivity.
Good. Thank you for your Convener. Yeah, I mean, in the previous instances of additional public holidays, the only figure that's been presented to members, as far as I'm aware, has been the additional unbudgeted costs, and that's to do with the enhancements required for people working on public holidays, those who are unable to take the day off because they are providing essential services, or where there's a knock-on effect on an additional work day required for something like bin uplifts. What we've tried to do with the report this time is to add in the additional productivity loss by every council member for being off work for an additional day, whether that's on that particular day or on another day taken authorised by management sometime else during the year. I believe that information was not previously presented to the council, as it was not taken as being pertinent to the decision. This time we're trying to give a more rounded picture of both the additional unbudgeted costs, but also trying to put a figure against the productivity lost across the council by the loss of a day's labour of every one of the council officers.
So obviously the productivity loss reported is really the labour cost for the day.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank officers for that. Obviously that's one metric for productivity. Obviously I'm not going to suggest we should be going down to a 4-day week, but obviously having holidays, etc., doesn't prove people's productivity when they're not on holiday. So there's a variety of other things that obviously could come to bear. Also, just I suppose I'd also just like to say that from looking at those previous reports, I know the 2022 and 2023. I'd like to hope they're not too long ago, because I still remember them. But with respect to the impact they had on the services, I don't recollect any of the KPIs and things changing because of the additional holidays. So though there is that additional staff cost, we haven't seen that impact on service delivery. Certainly it's not been reported as specific to us taking these additional days. I don't know if the officers are able to comment on that or not, but certainly that's my understanding. Another thing, obviously, this is the report obviously talks about the impact on the council specifically. Obviously, having a day off has a wider impact on the community as well. The ability for people to enjoy themselves, celebrate a national achievement, which, though not winning the World Cup, is certainly significant for Scotland. Also improves community cohesion, because we know there's a number of local authorities that are still considering taking the authority and it gives economic opportunities, obviously, for service industries within Inverclyde as well. So there's benefits to the local economy as well with respect to taking this holiday. But so I certainly there's still consider that we should actually adopt a holiday locally, and as we noted previously, our option would still be for not to have a declared public holiday as such, but give council officers the opportunity to take that, or council staff, sorry, the opportunity to take that day on the 15th of June on another day as appropriate.
Mr Robertson has a hand up. Elizabeth, you still want to contribute?
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Chris has kind of essentially covered what I was going to say, but I don't think the point is so much about the fact that the full set of costs weren't reported to us previously, although I guess that is an issue. It's the fact that if they're real costs, then they must have been realised in the reality of Inverclyde Council. And again, I'm not aware of us having had to kind of dip into reserves or make budget adjustments on the basis of catastrophic financial consequences of previous public holidays such as this.
Thank you, Councillor Kane.
Councillor McVeigh.
Councillor, sorry, Colin.
Thank you, Convener. I think in an ideal world, I mean, it'd be great to give everybody a holiday, but the reality is, Convener, we don't live in an ideal world. We've heard reports today of the pressure on our capital programme, with the pressure on our revenue budget, and that's only going to increase. If you look through the papers today, last year we asked people to pay 8.2% council tax. This year it's going to be almost 8%, and then next year it's going to be almost 8%. And in addition to that, we cut 26 jobs with a net loss of spend to the local community of £4,500,000. So I don't think that this is the best use of taxpayers, council taxpayers' money. I think, given the levels of council tax we're asked to pay now and may do again in the future, I don't think it can be justified. And that's before we move on to the productivity losses which are highlighted in the report as well. Convener, so I would go for option one, and I would move that at the appropriate time. Convener, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Kane.
Yeah, I mean, I have a slightly different perspective from both councillors who've spoken. This tries very hard to justify the case for the holiday, and Tommy rightly points out the financial consequences. But for me, initially, it's about whether the achievement justifies a public holiday, to be perfectly honest. And I don't believe for a second it does justify a public holiday. I'm a passionate supporter of Scotland. I wouldn't say I'm a member of the Tartan Army, certainly not. But I've watched every Scotland World Cup game since 1974. I was actually at the Hampden Park on September 1973 when they beat Czechoslovakia 2-1 to qualify for the 1974 World Cup. And it was 96,000 people. My older, dear departed brother took me to that game, and it was a fantastic occasion. And I was jumping for joy the night that Scotland qualified for the 26th World Cup. What a fantastic occasion. And to be in the World Cup is absolutely great for Scottish football, for Scotland as a country. But we've been in the Women's World Cup recently, and we never had a public holiday. Andy Murray won Wimbledon twice. He won 2 Olympic gold medals as well, and we never had that public holiday to celebrate. I just don't think it justifies. And to actually make a comparison between this achievement and the other historic events that have been outlined in the report, including the death of the longest reigning monarch, the coronation of the first monarch in my lifetime, the end of the Second World War. I just don't think this does in any way compare landmarks in the history of this country, whether you're a royalist or not a royalist. It's a great achievement. But see, when we qualified in 1974, they hadn't been at a World Cup since 1958. And then we were in 5 World Cups in a row, and obviously we've had a barren period. Absolutely the point, mate. If we win the World Cup, I'll be more convinced about having a public holiday then. And then when we get to the actual proposed holiday, and for weeks and weeks and weeks, people thought, aye, we're having a holiday on the Monday because the game's in the early hours of the Monday morning. And the Waynes can't go to school after being up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch the Scotland game. And if you're at blah blah in the house and a wee libation, you're no one to go to work. The games that kicks off at 2 o'clock on the Sunday morning and is over by 4 o'clock on the Sunday morning. Now, I intend to watch the game. I might watch it in the house, subject to licensing arrangements. I might go to the pub in Kilmacombe and watch it. I intend to be in my bed for 5 o'clock on the Sunday morning and probably up for mass at 12 o'clock, right? And then about the rest of the day, I don't need the Monday off to celebrate. So what we're going to be doing in this Monday holiday, celebrating, all right? You propose we organise street parties and things like that to celebrate. We're playing Haiti at 2 o'clock in the morning, over by 4 o'clock, and our record in World Cup games is right. And I remember 74, we did beat Niger 2-0 and then drew with Brazil and Yugoslavia, but I remember 78 in Argentina when we get beat off Peru and drew with Iran, etc. Heaven forbid, trying to go a wee bit pear-shaped with Haiti. I don't think many people will be feeling like celebrating when it comes to Monday. I just think it's irrational, it's illogical to have a public holiday on that particular day. And if we were to reject the public holiday, we'd be going along with the vast majority of the councils in Scotland. Mona's got 22, I think, 21, I've got 22, because Stirling, I think, have announced that they're not having it as well. And if you look through the list, there's no politics involved here, because there's quite a number of SNP-led councils that basically said, no, there's no justification for it, right? And then you come on to the disruption, right? And the impact on the community, the impact on the children, young people, etc. Right? The fact that probably lots of parents working in the private sector won't get the day off, so therefore to watch their kids, they're going to have to take the day off, maybe unpaid leave, etc. in terms of that. And the impact in learning. A few weeks ago, the First Minister agreed to a deal with the EIS on the reduction in class contracting. Right? It's a phased-in agreement over the next 4 years or so. But ultimately, that agreement is going to cost £300 million, right, recurring money, right? And councillors don't know where that money's come from. Scottish Government doesn't know where that money's come from. And he wanted to do that because he was desperate to avoid EIS going to strike, including the birth in Kinross, where his son potentially could be disrupted. But we want children to miss a day of school and kids, younger children miss a day's nursery to celebrate in Scotland qualifying the World Cup on a Monday when the game's actually in the early hours on the Sunday morning. It's completely illogical and irrational, and we really should not agree to it. So I'm happy to support the proposal from Councillor McVeigh.
Any other comments? Well, can I just say, I wasn't intending to take part in this today, but having said that, yesterday I met a man who did a meal treatment, and he works in the private sector, and he tells me he walks it because he can't afford the bus fare half the time. And he's working hard, and he's at me about the council tax, and I'm trying to explain to him how it worked. I could do that with a clear conscience. I could argue my point on at that point. I could never face my game and say I agree to this holiday. And I know for a fact that and many more of my constituents will have to go to work the private sector. Will now be given this luxury of a day off because Scotland are qualified for the World Cup. And like Stephen, I was that bad in that as well. I remember like Joe Jordan Sonia votes, and I'll not forget it. But at the end of the day, you're right. The colours won 4 years ago. They won the Olympic gold, and we're 12 million people stayed up all night to watch it. We're never going to get a day off for them. It is. I'm a very passionate supporter of Scotland, but I'm also more to the fact that the public purse of it being in charge of. And we cannot, with any clear conscience, give the staff a day off when the rest of our constituents don't have that luxury, and that's what I feel as well. I feel it's an absolute nonsense, and if the Scottish Government had been wanted to, they'd have covered the cost of it. I was at a board meeting last week, in Great Lagan Clyde, and they were mentioning the end of the meeting's finished. George Finn announced that the NHS would take a day off. Well, I don't know how they're going to work that one, because certainly there's nothing that we've seen how to discuss how we can get the NHS staff in the office as well. It's an absolute nonsense in my opinion, and it shouldn't even be here. And I agree with Tom 100%. We should not grant this all.
I think I was first to say the motions for just if we're going to have a vote, which I presume we will do. I think it's most motion amendment. But just to say that we have had public holidays in the past, there's never been any funds come from any other organisation. I take people's views on respect of whether or not it's reached the amount that we require a holiday to mark the occasion, and we'll hold fire. Hopefully, whether it might be revisited at the end of June, July, if Scotland wins the World Cup. I know Stephen's got these things there, but there is a serious aspect to this. I think it is about a coming together for a national event. And I do take Stephen's point about the women's team. Fortunately for the women's team, they've qualified a hell of a lot sooner than the men's team. But I think if you want to move to a vote, I'm quite happy to move for the other options taken.
Okay. Lindsay?
Thank you, conveners. Just to confirm then, so Councillor Hurley, your motion is option 3. Okay, so the motion is option 3 and it's with Councillor Curley, and the amendment is option 1 with Councillor McBain. Everyone clear on the motion and the amendment? Okay. So I'll move to a roll call vote. When I call your name, can you indicate whether you wish to vote for the motion, the amendment, or you'd like to abstain? Councillor Brooks.
Amendment.
Councillor Curley.
Motion.
Councillor Crowther.
Motion.
Councillor Jackson.
Amendment.
Councillor McCabe.
Amendment.
Councillor McCormick.
Amendment.
Councillor McGuire.
Amendment.
Councillor McBain.
Amendment.
Councillor Moran.
Amendment.
And Councillor Robertson.
Motion.
Thank you. I have 3 votes for the motion and 7 votes for the amendment, so the amendment is carried.
Thank you, everybody. I'm moving the resolution, move on to the 5th section